For over 1,000 years, it was nothing more than a ghost story. A whisper passed down through the pages of dusty manuscripts. It was a city mentioned by the great historian Herodotus, and it was said to be the very place where Helen of Troy took her first steps on Egyptian soil. But for centuries, not a single stone, not a single coin, and not a single wall could be found. To the modern world, it appeared that this great metropolis had simply vanished into thin air. But it didn't vanish into the air. It was swallowed by the sea. Imagine a city that predates the founding of Alexandria. A city of immense wealth, grand temples, and bustling ports, sitting at the mouth of the Nile River. This was Thonis to the Egyptians and Heracleion to the Greeks. For centuries, it was the gateway to Egypt, the Venice of the ancient world, until nature violently reclaimed it. Today, we are going to dive into the murky waters of Aboukir Bay to uncover one of the most significant underwater archaeological discoveries of the 21st century. We will explore how a city of such power could disappear so completely, and what its resurrection tells us about the fragility of our own civilization. To understand the tragedy of Thonis-Heracleion, we first have to understand its glory. If you were a Greek merchant sailing to Egypt around the 5th century BC, you wouldn't see the famous lighthouse of Alexandria, because Alexandria didn't exist yet. Instead, your ship would navigate the complex, marshy delta of the Nile until you were greeted by the imposing silhouette of the Temple of Amun-Jareb. This city was the customs office of the pharaohs. It was a place of convergence. It was here that the ancient Egyptian world met the rising Greek world. It was a city of islands, connected by bridges and pontoons, crisscrossed by canals, and teeming with ships from across the known world. We know now that the city was a powerhouse of trade. Taxes were collected here on imported goods, and it was the primary port for grain exports. But it wasn't just a counting house for gold and grain. It was a sacred center. The excavations have revealed a society deeply devoted to its gods. The central temple was a massive structure, playing a critical role in the dynastic rites of the pharaohs. It was here that new rulers would come to receive the divine title of the investiture. For the people living there, life must have seemed permanent. The stone statues were colossal, some standing over 5 meters tall. The wealth seemed endless. They had no idea that the very ground they built upon was a ticking time bomb. So what happened? How does an entire major city simply drop off the map? The disappearance of Thonis-Heracleion wasn't a single event, but a slow-motion catastrophe punctuated by moments of terrifying violence. The city was built on the western edge of the Nile Delta. Geologically speaking, this is unstable ground. It is sediment, soft clay, and sand deposited by the river over thousands of years. When you build massive stone temples on waterlogged clay, you are fighting a losing battle against physics. But the real killer was a phenomenon known as soil liquefaction. Historians and geologists believe that a series of severe earthquakes and high floods struck the region. When an earthquake hits water-saturated soil, the ground loses its stiffness and behaves like a liquid. Heavy buildings don't just crumble. They sink. They are swallowed whole. Imagine the horror of the final days. The earth, which had felt solid for generations, suddenly turned to soup. Massive columns, statues of gods weighing several tons, and the homes of thousands of people slid into the water. By the end of the 8th century AD, what was left of the city was fully submerged, buried under sand and seawater, hidden from the human eye. As the centuries passed, the Nile shifted its course. The coastline changed. The memory of the city faded into myth. While scholars read the ancient texts speaking of Heracleion, they assumed it was perhaps a poetic invention, or maybe a minor outpost that had been exaggerated by time. That is, until the year 2000. Enter Frank Gaudio, a French underwater archaeologist who had spent years mapping the coastline of Egypt. He wasn't just looking for shipwrecks. He was looking for lost history. Gaudio and his team, used nuclear magnetic resonance magnetometers to scan the seabed. It was a search for anomalies, disturbances in the magnetic field that might indicate man-made structures buried beneath the sediment. The search area was vast, and the water in the bay is notoriously murky. Visibility is often less than a few feet. But then the instruments began to sing. They found a wall, then a column, then emerging from the gloom, the face of a god. The discovery was staggering. It wasn't just a few scattered ruins. It was an entire cityscape frozen in time. Gaudio's team found the remains of more than 60 ancient shipwrecks in the immediate vicinity, the largest graveyard of ancient ships ever found. This confirmed the city's status as a major trade hub. But the most breathtaking finds were the statues. Divers uncovered a colossal statue of Hapi, the god of the Nile floods. Standing over 5 meters tall and made of red granite, it had been lying on the ocean floor for over 1,000 years, covered in barnacles but perfectly preserved. Alongside Hapi, they found statues of a Ptolemaic king and queen, likely Ptolemy II and Arsinoe II, depicted in the traditional dress of Egyptian pharaohs. These statues are more than just art. They are evidence of a unique moment in history. They show the seamless blending of Greek and Egyptian styles. The faces have the naturalism of Greek art, but the stance and the attire are rigidly Egyptian. It is a snapshot of a multicultural society that existed 2,000 years ago. One of the most critical discoveries was a massive black stele, a slab of stone inscribed with hieroglyphics. This was the decree of size. It was incredibly important because it matched a similar stele found earlier on land. But crucially, this underwater stele explicitly mentioned the name of the city. Thonis-Heracleion, this was the smoking gun. It proved once and for all that Thonis and Heracleion were not two different places, but one single city with two names, one Egyptian, one Greek. The mystery of the ancient texts was solved instantly. As the excavation continued, the site offered up more intimate secrets. They found gold coins, bronze vessels, and intricate jewelry. They found hundreds of small statuettes, likely used for personal worship or as votive offerings. These items were not packed away for travel. They were left in situ, suggesting that when the end came, it came quickly for some, or that these items were lost during the regular floods that plagued the city before its final sinking. Among the wrecks, archaeologists found a type of ship known as a baris. For centuries, scholars had read Herodotus's description of this specific type of Nile cargo boat, but no one had ever seen one. They thought Herodotus might have been making it up. But there it was, sitting in the mud of Aboukir Bay, constructed exactly as the ancient historian had described it 2,500 years ago. It was a vindication of ancient history through modern technology. The excavation of Thonis-Heracleion is an ongoing project. Experts estimate that we have uncovered only a tiny fraction, perhaps less than 5% of what lies down there. Every dive brings the potential for a new rewriting of history. But beyond the gold and the granite, there is a haunting quality to this site. When we look at images of these statues standing upright on the ocean floor, staring into the blue abyss, we are looking at a graveyard of human ambition. This was a city that believed it was eternal. Its priests performed daily rituals to ensure the stability of the cosmos. Its merchants counted coins and planned for the future. Its rulers built monuments they thought would last forever. And yet the sea took it all. It serves as a humbling reminder for us today. We build our cities on coastlines. We construct skyscrapers that pierce the clouds. We feel secure in our mastery of the environment. But Thonis-Heracleion reminds us that geography is not static. The earth moves. The waters rise. And what is a bustling metropolis today can become the lost legends of tomorrow. For now, the city remains in the silent embrace of the Mediterranean. The statues of the gods are slowly being lifted to the surface, cleaned of their marine growth, and placed in museums for us to marvel at. But the true spirit of Thonis-Heracleion remains underwater in the shadows of the bay, a submerged monument to the passage of time and the enduring mysteries of the past. As we continue to scan the ocean floor, one has to wonder, what other cities are down there, waiting in the darkness, waiting for the light to return? Thank you for joining us on this journey into the deep.